Navigation is a big part of any iOS application. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at two navigation controllers great for helping people move around your app, the TabBar controller and the navigation controller. Learning when to use these controllers and how they work will help you build a great UI and provide your users with a nice navigating experience. Now, if you've played music on your iPhone before, you've actually seen the TabBar controller in action. It's that black bar along the bottom that allows me to select playlists, artists, songs, and by simply tapping those nice areas along the bottom, I've got a nice, easy way to move around my application. If you do have more than 5 tabs, you can take advantage of this More option down here. Further tasks will be put in here and users can select them, but generally speaking, it's nice to keep things simple. I recommend 3 or 4 tabs and generally try not to overwhelm your users. Now, another nice way to move around the application is with something called the nav bar. Now, I'm in the settings here, and see that little bar at the very top? Watch what happens when I click one of these options here and I drill down. For instance, I'm going to drill down into General. You see how the word General came up and that Settings button came on the left-hand side? And if I drill further down, I can now navigate back to General from the About page and then back to my Settings page. That's the nav bar controller in action. A nice, simple way to move hierarchically through your application. So you'll notice it's very simple. There's only one button at the top going back, and all that happens is the title changes as I drill further down. That's the beauty of the nav bar. It's really simple. One thing you don't want to do is make it overly complex and try to do something like breadcrumbing, like you might see in a web app. But that's the nav bar, a nice simple way of navigating amongst different views and displaying hierarchical data. Now, while I'm showing you the TabBar controller and the navbar controller separately, just know that these things work really well together. For instance, if I go back to my music application, you can see I've got my tab bars in the bottom here. If I click on the More button, I've now got a table view, but look at the top, there's that navbar controller. If I drill down, you'll see the navbar controller changes and I can move back. So this is a great example of TabBar controllers and navbar controllers working together. So with that quick overview of the TabBar and navbar controller, let's switch over to Xcode and see what these things look like in action. So what we're going to do in Xcode is I'm going to show you how to storyboard out a simple app. This is an app I built some time ago. You can see it's got a tab bar at the bottom with My Stuff, Friends, and Email, and it's got a nav bar at the top. And I can click by pressing various tabs at the bottom. I can do some navigation at the top, and there you can see the nav bar in action. We're just going to look at how to do the simple storyboard layout for this in Xcode. So if you haven't already fired up Xcode, go ahead and do that now. We're going to create a new application. This is going to be a single view application. I'm going to give this the name Take My Stuff. That's the name of the app. Make sure that you click Use Storyboards. We're going to use storyboards for this example. And go ahead and save that wherever you like. And I'm just going to give us a little more room here. And there we go. If we click on Storyboard, we should see the one default view controller that was given to us. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. I'm going to start with a clean slate. Now this Take My Stuff app is going to have 3 different views. The first one we're going to start with is a view for giving stuff away. It's a table view controller, which is eventually going to contain pictures. But it's a table, and I'm going to start this as the basis of our app. So I'm going to drag this out. And what I want to do now is I'm going to actually embed that in a TabBar controller. That's how easy it is to turn this into a TabBar controller. You click your view, go embed in TabBar controller, and you see it'll automatically add a TabBar controller here connected to the view that you embedded it in. Now I want to give this TabBar controller, the item down here, just a bit of a name. So I'm going to call this My Stuff, so I know what I'm transitioning to. And with that set up, I'm now free to add the other views that I also want to have included as part of my app here. So I'm going to drag out another TabBar controller. This is eventually going to be a list of friends. And the way to include a new view as part of an existing TabBar controller is you click on your TabBar controller and you come down to this guy down here. And with him selected, you're going to control drag a connection or an outlet from there to the view you want to connect it to. And here you're going to be presented with various segue options. The one we want is the relationship segue. This basically says this view controller has a relationship with this TabBar controller. Go ahead and select that, and now you'll see this is embedded in that TabBar controller, and there's a new item here. Let's go ahead and give that item a name. This is going to be Friends. And now I've just got one more view to control. This is going to be a view that sends email. I'm just going to drag it out here, and just like with the other guy, I'm going to select this, and while holding down the control key, control, drag to this view controller. I'm going to do the relationship segue, and now I've got my 3 views hooked up to TabBar controllers. Let's just give this guy a name called email. So as you can see, this is getting a bit busy. One nice feature is you can double click your storyboard and it will zoom out and let you just do a little bit of housekeeping and rearrange things. So what I'm going to do is I just like to lay these things out a little bit nicer. I'm going to put my stuff controller up there. I'll slide my Friends controller there, and I'll come down here and put my email controller here. And maybe even I can spread this guy out and bring him down sort of in the middle here. Just kind of get that spaced a little bit nicer. Now if we ran this right now, we would see something that looks like this. 3 views embedded nicely in a TabBar controller. But notice there's no navigation controller at the top. That's what we're going to do next. We're going to take these views and embed them in a navigation controller. And doing that is very similar to what we did with the TabBar controller. You come up to the view that you want to embed in a navigation controller, select it, and then go Editor, Embed in Navigation Controller. And lo and behold, a navigation controller pops up. You can see that nice blue bar at the top. That tells us it's a navigation controller. And now we can come here and give this a nice title, like My Stuff. Then we can do the same thing for our other views. We can select a view, go Editor, Embed in Navigation Controller. Give this guy a nice title. We'll call this guy Friends. And we'll do the same for our email guy down here. Select him. And go Editor, Embed in Navigation Controller, and give him a nice title also, Email. And voila. If we hit Command R or the play button, we would now see our TabBar controller with a nice navigation controller at top. We have some nice titles up there, and if we had further views, we could drill down into those and move forward and backward, just like we did in the Music app for the iPhone. Now, one thing to note here is we haven't hooked up any classes or any view controllers backing up these views. All we've done is hooked up the navigation, but that's okay. That's usually a good place to start with your app, just to get a flow and a feel for how things are going to move. So there you have it, a simple example of a TabBar controller and views embedded in a navigation controller. Come back in future episodes and we'll look at how to add art to these and eventually start adding some of the functionality we saw, which includes taking pictures, talking to friends, and sending email. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.